Hey guys, I'm Milan with 2 Pro Beats, and in today's video I'm gonna show you how you can create a mixing template inside Studio One. A lot of you guys asked me for a template, so instead of just putting it out for free, I want to explain how you can create your own templates so you can create your own sound, your own workflow. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and hit that notification button. Let's get into the video. Okay, so before starting adding things to the template, I'm gonna show you the settings of the project. These are my usual settings for all my projects. Sample rate 44.1, resolution 24 bits. I don't use the stretch audio files to song tempo because when you import some new files into the project, if you have this option checked, when you change the tempo, it will stretch the files. With metadata, you can insert whatever you want. If you are recording, add your inputs and your outputs. Same thing goes if you're using analog hardware. Add all the necessary inputs and outputs, name them so you have everything set up correctly right from the get-go when you starting a new project. For example, if you are recording, just add a mono, call it microphone, and select the corresponding input in which your microphone is plugged in. Hit apply and hit OK. Now you have set up the microphone. For me, one important thing about a template is it has to be organized. For that, I'm gonna start by adding some folder tracks. Folder track 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna name the first one beat, the second one vocals, and the third one sounds. That's what I usually have in my templates. Now I want to add the basses that I know I'm gonna use in each and every single mixing session. I know that I'm gonna have a bass for my drums. I know that I'm gonna have a bass for my vocals. I know that I'm gonna have a bass for ad-libs. I'm gonna show you what basses I usually have in my session. One bass for the beat, one bass for the drums, one bass for the music, one bass for the vocals, one bass for the hook, one bass for the verse, one bass for the ad-libs. What I like to do is route everything to the corresponding bass. For example, hook, verse, ad-libs, these are going to the vocal bass. So these three basses are going into this one. Then the music and the drums are going to the beat bass. So this is how the basic routing looks in all my mixing sessions. You can add a folder for the basses. I usually don't use them in folders because I want to see them in my session all the time. Color coding. I usually use blue for my beat, red for vocals, pick a color you like, and I usually use pink for the sounds. You can color code your basses. I usually don't do it because I like to keep the basses in this gray color and have everything else around the basses color coded. Now let me add my 2-bus processing. On all of my templates I have 2-bus processing. On my actual mixing template I have the hardware that I use for the 2-bus processing, Tegeler Audio Manufacture, Sidechain Compressor, and the CREM. That's what I have on the 2-bus. For this template I'm gonna use plugins. The first plugin on the 2-bus, BX Digital version 3. The only thing that I use all the time is the stereo width, just increasing a tiny bit the stereo width at 105%. Next, you can add any type of compressor that you like for your 2-bus. Before using hardware I was using the Glue, an SSL type compressor. The settings are pretty much the same as I use on the CREM or as you can use on other SSL type compressors. Ratio 2:1, release fast, attack slow, sidechain 120. Because this template will be available as a free download, I'm gonna use the SSL compressor from Waves 2, so you can pick and choose whichever you have. Same thing, slow attack, fast release, ratio 2:1. Next, on the 2-bus in this template, a Pultec style EQ. I'm gonna add just a bit of low end, let's say 1 dB at 100 Hz. That's what I usually do, and with broad bandwidth at 10K, 1 dB. This is a starting point. Have the 2-bus processing bypassed. That's how I start my mixes. Everything on the 2-bus is on bypass. I start with the levels, panning, everything, then I add my 2-bus processing. Another plugin that I use on my mixing template and that I recommend you having is a reference plugin. This one is Metric AB from Plugin Alliance. You can add your own reference tracks so you can reference your mix. Another thing that you can add on the template is an analyzer. You can use any type of analyzer that you want. Multi-analyzer from Melda or Insight from Ozone. The analyzer that I actually use most of the time is the one that comes with my RME interface. It's called DigiCheck. It looks something like this. It's not a plugin, it's software installed on my computer, but you can use any other analyzer. So now we're done with the 2-bus. The next step is to add sends. Now I've added a lot of buses. I'm gonna move the sends to the send folder, and I do that because I wanna hide my sends from the console when I'm mixing. A nice thing about Studio One is that you can create a VCA. This is what I like to do, so I can have the folder showing in the console. You can create VCAs by clicking here and add VCA channel. Now you can hide and close the sends. Let's start with 2 parallel compression sends. The first one, all in buttons, bluey mode or blackie, it depends on what you're looking for. Crank the input really hard, slow attack, fast release. These are the settings. Just check that you get a lot of compression when you send things to it. I have this as a parallel vocal compressor, so I'm calling it Vox Crush. Solo safe, click shift. The next parallel compressor is Devil Lock Sound Toys. I use this on vocals, but I use this on drums a lot. The settings that I use most of the time, the crush, which is the compressor, really pushed. The crunch, you have to set this on your own taste and play with the darkness. This is going to remove the top end, so it's not really harsh. Mix 100% since this is a parallel chain. Drums, crush. Those are the 2 parallel chains that I have in my sessions. Now let's move to reverbs. When it comes to reverbs, it's a matter of taste. My most used reverb, Vintage Verb from Valhalla, Valhalla Room, H Reverb from Waves, Solo Safe. And I like to have different reverb types. On one I like to have a hole, on one I like to have a plate, on one I like to have a room. Fine tune them when I actually start mixing. Tyrell hole, this one is one of my favorite, call it hole. Next one, let's go with the plate, vocal plate, call it Vox plate. Third one, different one, Dark Vox. Let's add a room. Studio Alpha, Studio. Let's add one more of the Vintage Verb. I really want to have a huge space. Oh, let's use the medieval one, 5 seconds. Give your sends name that you can remember, that you're gonna use in every single session. I have H reverb in my sessions because of one preset. That preset is the Hogarth Flange Verb. This is what I use if I want to get like a Travis Scott type reverb. The only thing that I change is the build up and the pre-delay, the size 3 seconds, and of course, like I said, this is just the basic template. From this point you need to tweak everything. You can change plugins, you can add other plugins. Let's call this one Flange Verb. So these are my reverbs. I think that 7 reverbs in a mixing session is more than enough. Sometimes I only use like 1 or 2 reverbs, but it's always nice to have the sends already there in the session so you don't interrupt with the creative flow. Next, let's move to delays. My favorite delay that I have in all of my sessions is Echo Boy. That's what I'm gonna use. Let's add a few Echo Boys. First delay that I know I'm gonna use in the session, mostly on vocals, is a slap delay. 70 milliseconds, it's fine. When you actually start mixing with the slap, you can then go and edit the style, you can go and edit the feedback, the saturation. I usually like my slap to be stereo, so increase the width and the offset from the left and the right. Slap, play. and then I want to have delay sends for multiple intervals. I want to have a delay for a quarter of the note, I want to have a delay for half a note, I want to have a really long delay for a full note, I want to have 2 ping pong delays. So that's what I'm gonna do right now, and as you can see, I'm not changing the settings. Just make sure that you have the delays 100% wet. This is a quarter. Let's make a half a note, a really long one, call it long lay, then a ping pong 1/4, and leave 2 extra delays if you need some creative stuff. X lay. Let's add more buses so we can add more stuff to the template. Another thing that I use in my templates is a stereo double for my vocals, and you can use the Waves doubler, you can use Real ADT, you can use Stereo Savage from Plugin Boutique. I usually use Real ADT. I like the sound of it. I usually start with this 2 driven vocals preset, band hard right and hard left, then you can tweak this to your taste. Vox Stereo. Another plugin that I have in my template is the Aphex Vintage Exciter. I have it on the X settings. I use this as a send to add some shine to the vocals. I call this Vox Air. You can use other plugins for this, other saturators, and this is the basic template. One thing that I like to do is to send the vocal crush to the vocal bus, the drum crush to the drum bus, then the Vox Stereo and Vox Air to the vocal bus, because I like to process everything together in the vocal bus. So this is the routing when it comes to my sends. Another thing that I like to do is to have an EQ and a compressor on my sends. On the 2 parallel compressors, I don't use a compressor there. You can use any EQ you like. I like using the FabFilter Pro Q3, and I have it on bypass when I start the session. I only use Sidechain Compression, like I said, on reverbs and on my delays. Let's start here and let's make the settings. Activate sidechain, activate external sidechain, higher ratio. Let's start with a soft knee, use it on clean. Fast attack, release, depends on the tempo of the track, so you'll have to tweak that. Let's grab that and add it on every single reverb and delay track. Let's remove it from the vocal crush. So now if I have a track, right, I send it to the long delay. You can see that I already have the sidechain of the Pro C2 in my list. I have that in place. I only have to activate the compressor, adjust settings, and I have the sidechain right there. Easy as that. Next, let's add VCAs for the beat folder, for the vocal folder. So we have that in the actual session. This is how the session is going to look. I like to keep tracks smaller in the beginning, something like this. I like to have the console closed, and now let's save this as a template. Save as a template, 2 bus processing, buses, folders, sends. Hit OK. Now you have this as a template. Now all you have to do is drag and drop your files. Just drag your audio files and assign them to the proper folder. Let's say that this is a vocal, just move that file to that folder and you're ready to go. Next step is to assign that to the vocal bus, just like that, and you can start mixing. Start tweaking the template, start adjusting things and create your own sound. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, hit that notification button, drop a like. If you have any questions, just leave a comment. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, and see you guys next week. Cheers.